As a taxi driver in the bustling streets of New York City, I had seen it all: late-night revelers, weary commuters, and everything in between. But nothing could have prepared me for the night I encountered true terror behind the wheel of my cab. As the clock struck midnight, I noticed a person standing at the curb, hailing me to stop. Assuming it was a real passenger in need of a ride, I pulled over to pick them up. "Where to?" I asked, my voice warm and welcoming as I glanced at the rearview mirror. The person didn't respond, and I assumed they might be a little shy or in a hurry. I could only see their silhouette, but I didn't think much of it at the time. As I continued driving, I tried making small talk, but the passenger remained silent. My efforts to engage them were met with nothing more than an enigmatic stillness. A slight unease crept over me, but I attributed it to the late hour and the oddity of the situation. The city lights flickered as we moved along, and I could sense an unusual chill settling in the cab. I decided to glance at the rearview mirror again, and to my shock, I saw no one sitting there. My heart skipped a beat, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. I swear someone was just sitting there a while ago. Puzzled and bewildered, I pulled over at the next safe spot, thinking that maybe the passenger had left without me noticing. But as I stepped out of the cab and looked around, there was no one to be found. The streets were empty, and the silence seemed to echo my growing fear. A feeling of dread washed over me, and I couldn't shake the sensation that I had just encountered something beyond the land of the living. Could it be possible that I had picked up a ghostly passenger? With trembling hands, I returned to the driver's seat and continued on my route. My thoughts were in turmoil, and I couldn't make sense of what had just happened. The city that had always felt so familiar now felt haunting and mysterious. As the night wore on, I couldn't escape the lingering feeling of unease. I tried to rationalize the experience, convincing myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew what I had seen in that rearview mirror. In the days that followed, I couldn't forget the encounter. I questioned my sanity, wondering if I had truly seen a ghostly apparition or if exhaustion had blurred reality. The memory of a silent, enigmatic passenger haunted my every thought. To distract myself from the unnerving experience, I shared the story with fellow taxi drivers at the stand. Some dismissed it as a figment of my imagination, while others spoke of their own eerie encounters on the deserted streets of New York City. As time passed, I became more accepting of the inexplicable encounter. I came to believe that I had indeed picked up a ghostly presence that night. From that night on, I couldn't help but glance at the rearview mirror whenever I picked up a passenger, half expecting to encounter the ghostly figure again. The streets of New York City, once familiar and comforting, now held a sense of mystery and the unknown forever imprinted with the memory of the vanishing passenger. Though I may never fully comprehend what transpired that night, one thing remains certain: there are mysteries that lie beyond our understanding, lingering on the edges of our reality, waiting to be encountered by unsuspecting souls like myself. Driving along a desolate country road in rural Texas, I found myself enveloped in darkness as the sun had long set. The moon cast an eerie glow on the fields that stretched endlessly on both sides of the highway. The cool night air seeped through the car windows, making me feel a sense of isolation in the vast expanse. Lost in my thoughts, I came across a man standing on the roadside with his thumb up in the air. My heart skipped a beat as I recalled the tales of people pretending to be hitchhikers to harm unsuspecting drivers. The chilling stories of deceit and danger echoed in my mind, filling me with caution. Despite my reservations, a pang of sympathy washed over me as I noticed the hitchhiker's genuine desperation. The man wore decent clothes. His eyes held a hint of weariness and vulnerability that tugged at my empathy. As I approached, I rolled down the window just a crack, keeping a safe distance from the stranger. "Do you need any help?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded gratefully and explained that someone robbed him a few miles away and just got lucky he escaped. He asked if I can give him a ride to the nearest town so we can report it to the police. His plea sounded sincere, and I could feel the weight of his distress. I offered him my phone to call for help as the stories of sinister hitchhikers loomed large, and I thought it best to exercise caution. "I'm sorry, but I can't give you a ride," I replied, trying to be polite. "But I can call the police for you to report the incident." To my surprise, the man's demeanor suddenly changed. His eyes narrowed and a hint of frustration crept into his voice. "No, don't call the police," he insisted, his tone becoming more forceful. "I really need a ride. Just take me to the nearest town." A chill ran down my spine, and my instincts told me something was amiss. I could feel a sense of danger lingering in the air. I knew I had to trust my gut and prioritize my safety. "I'm sorry, but I can't do that," I firmly stated, trying to hide the unease in my voice. "I'll call the police for you and they can assist you." The hitchhiker's face contorted with anger, and before I could react, he pulled out a gleaming knife from his pocket and stabbed it through the window of my car. Panic surged through me as I heard the sound of the knife hitting my car window. Without a moment's hesitation, I hit the gas pedal and sped away. The sound of the knife scratching against the window sent shivers down my spine. As I glanced in the rearview mirror, my heart nearly stopped. 4 other figures emerged from the shadows, standing eerily still and staring at me with cold, vacant eyes as I continued to drive away. The sight was unnerving, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon something dangerous. I drove as fast as I could, my mind racing with fear and confusion. What had I just encountered? Who were those people, and what was their intent? As I reached the nearest town, I immediately called the police and reported the harrowing encounter. They assured me they would investigate the incident and warned me to be cautious. In the days that followed, the memory of that night haunted me. The chilling encounter with the hitchhiker and the eerie figures in the rearview mirror left me with a lingering sense of unease. I couldn't help but wonder what might have happened if I had let the stranger into my car. The thought sent shivers down my spine, reminding me that the world can be a dangerous place, even on the quietest country road. From that day on, I vowed to be more vigilant and cautious, to trust my instincts and prioritize my safety. The experience would forever serve as a grim reminder to stay alert and wary, for there are unknown dangers that may lurk on the desolate highways. As the clock struck midnight, I found myself on my usual late-night drive along Route 66, the desert winds whispering in the darkness. Little did I know that this seemingly ordinary night would turn into a harrowing tale of survival. Amidst the solitude of the highway, I spotted a woman standing by a stranded car, waving frantically for help. My compassionate nature urged me to offer assistance, and I pulled over without hesitation. As I approached, she pleaded for a ride to the nearest town, claiming her car had broken down. Something about her demeanor felt off, but I dismissed my unease, assuming it was just the isolation of the desert playing tricks on my mind. With a hint of apprehension, I agreed to give her a ride, my heart torn between empathy and caution. We drove in silence. The tension between us intensifies. The woman seemed on edge, her eyes darting nervously as if she was expecting something or someone. My unease grew stronger, but I tried to stay composed, focusing on the road ahead. Suddenly, headlights appeared in the rearview mirror, and before I could comprehend what was happening, 2 vehicles surrounded the car, forcing me to come to a screeching halt. Panic surged through me as masked figures emerged from the cars, their intentions unmistakably evil. The woman's true identity was revealed. She was part of a sinister syndicate that preyed on unsuspecting travelers. She told me to get out of the car if I want to live. I was a pawn in their dangerous game, caught in the web of their deception. Fear gripped my heart as they surrounded the car, leaving me completely defenseless. As my mind raced, I realized they had orchestrated this trap meticulously, and I was their unwitting victim. Bound by their sinister motives, escape seemed impossible. My breaths grew shallow, and I feared I might never see the light of day again. Meanwhile, at home, my mother grew increasingly worried when I didn't arrive at the usual time. She also couldn't call me as I was on a spot on Route 66 that doesn't have any cell service. Anxious, she decided to call the authorities, sensing that something was wrong. As the moments passed, her concern escalated into desperation. Back on Route 66, the syndicate members reveled in their cruel triumph. Their sinister laughter echoed through the desert night, a haunting symphony of malevolence. They had me trapped, and their intentions were far from benign. One masked guy pulled out a gun and asked for my car keys and other belongings. The other guy searched the car for other valuable items. I did not hesitate to give them everything that I got, as I am very desperate to survive. Minutes felt like hours, but fate had other plans. Just as they seemed to tighten their grip, the sound of approaching sirens interrupted their celebration. The sudden arrival of the authorities caught them off guard, and chaos ensued. They fled into the shadows, leaving me and my car behind. With the syndicate members gone, the authorities quickly tended to my safety. As I am released from their clutches, I felt an overwhelming mix of relief and terror. One police car stopped and attended to me while the other one tried to follow the syndicates. My brush with danger on Route 66 was an ordeal I would never forget. A haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk on the most desolate roads. I knew I was fortunate to escape the clutches of the syndicate, Their sinister plot had been thwarted, but the memory of that night would forever linger, a chilling reminder of the real-life horror I had faced on that desolate highway.